Part 7. Sourcing direct imports. In Part 4 we look at how stock got onto the shelves and considered the various methods by which stock is brought to market. Generally, the closer to the market the buyer purchases the product and the further up the supply chain, the more profitable it is. But this has to be weighed against the disadvantages of commitment, higher risk, and longer lead times. So, for direct imports, will yield the highest margin but have the disadvantage of commitment, higher risk, and longer lead times. Indirect imports, perhaps via a wholesaler, will yield a high margin, but the retailer has a lack of control on stock management. Own brand direct imports, the retailer has control of the specification and production and will achieve a good margin, but the disadvantages are the stock commitment and the cost of staff and management time, because this requires expertise. For domestic purchasers, the retailer will be able to buy from available stock, but will achieve only an average margin. And for branded merchandise, the retailer will benefit from advertising support and name recognition, but will achieve a low margin. Commitment to direct imports. Some retailers do not have the buying power to import directly, but if they do, it offers them a margin opportunity. The margin is the difference between the cost and the selling price. The cost price will be the ex-factory price converted to home currency, and with an allowance for shipping, insurance, duty and distribution. This is known as the landed duty paid price. To import directly, the retailer has to be able to place an order large enough to merit a production run and ship a quantity that will be economic. That is, that will fill a truck from the factory to the port and fill a whole or possibly part container load. So an important consideration for the buyer is the space allocated to direct imports. Commitment to those lines will have to be made at an early stage in the process to allow time for production and shipment before products bought domestically are viewed. The retail buyer will usually visit source markets themselves where the products are manufactured, searching for new product to import directly for their company. So let's have a look at source markets. The place of manufacture for a product is determined by a number of factors, such as available components. For example, wooden items such as toys or furniture will usually be manufactured near heavily wooded areas. There are many manufacturers of plastic toys in France's heavily wooded Jura region, who originally made wooden toys and later switched to plastic. And now there is a local manufacture of the required plastic pellets. Another factor might be related industries, the availability of expertise and manufacturing plant. For example, places which specialise in production of lace, such as Nottingham in England, have influenced the development of an underwear manufacturing centre. Another factor might be the availability of skilled labour. For example, there are a lot of skilled clothing machinists in India and China. 20 years ago, Hong Kong was a centre for clothing production, and there was availability of skilled machinists there producing cheap clothing in volume. Then, the cost of living and the price of labour became so high that it's evolved into a centre for highly skilled, intricate and complex sewing and embroidery work. And another factor might be availability of plant. Again, in Nottingham, there is a concentration of the machines used to manufacture lace. So, certain areas become centres for specific commodities, and the buyer will be aware of these and will visit these localities to source product. Pros and cons of direct imports. So the advantage of direct imports is that margins achieved are much higher on direct imports, perhaps double that available on branded merchandise, which may be heavily discounted on the high street. The disadvantages, though, are the irrevocable stock commitment made by the company and the long lead time. When buying a direct import, the buyer may commit the company to something made redundant or certainly less appealing than a domestic line that they've not yet seen. So the higher margin must be balanced against these factors. Once the direct import program is established, the number of product slots available for new merchandise can be calculated by sub-range or category, and the buyer can begin to mentally fill those slots from the available merchandise they see at trade fairs through wholesalers, distributors and importers. They will probably also list product from wholesalers, distributors or importers that they can buy domestically. They will also consider product from branded companies who, in their sector, design, source and manufacture their own ranges to offer to retail buyers. Own brand products. It's easy to appreciate the value of own brand products for retailers. These lines may be part of the direct import program. Many supermarkets have launched their own brand in recent times and sometimes offer several levels of product. It offers them an opportunity to deal directly with manufacturers, specifying and controlling product themselves, using their trusted brand to support the product. They can set the price as the product is unique, so they can make higher margins on these lines. And they are not paying for advertisers' promotional campaigns. They are rather relying on the strength of their own name to carry the ranges.